Folks, there is an interesting theological and geographical movement going on in this part of Mark's gospel. In chapter 6, Jesus is in Galilee with his own people, in his own home. And there, surrounded by 5,000 Jews, he offers up a banquet feast of 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And all of them eat, and they gather up 12 baskets full of the leftovers. I have no idea how he did it. Then in chapter 6, Jesus crosses the sea and heads off into Tyre and Sidon. It's a melting pot of Jews and Gentiles, Samaritans and Greeks. And it's there that Jesus met up with, of all people, a Syro-Phoenician woman. One of those people for whom the Jews would never eat with. Jesus heals her daughter-in-law with some of the crumbs that are down here on the table. Did you catch the banquet feast connection? And then later in that gospel, Jesus goes even further into Gentile territory, goes down to the Decapolis. And there he heals a deaf mute. No question that this guy is a Gentile. And then in chapter 8, still in Gentile territory, Jesus again is the host of another banquet feast, this time for foreigners. Greeks, Gentiles. There is one story, the feeding of the 5,000 story is the only story recorded in all 4 Gospels, and Mark tells it twice. Once for the Jews, and once for the Gentiles. It's as if Mark is telling us that banquet feast of God that once was reserved for the Jews, for the home crowd, for the people who look like us and drink like us and think like us, it's been opened up to everybody who'll come. Syro-Phoenician women and Gentile deaf mutes and other people in Mark's gospel like a crooked tax collector and a demon-possessed person, and of all people, a Roman army officer. All of them welcomed at a table hosted by God himself. My dear Christian friends, you and I come to that banquet table every Sunday morning. And it's here at this table that God gives the bread and the wine to anybody who's hungry. Regardless of your political persuasion, or your religious upbringing, or your moral codes. I'm here to tell you, folks, at this table, you will rub shoulders with people whose stance on Obamacare is precisely the opposite of yours. At this table, you will come in contact with people who usually come to that other worship service and wouldn't be caught dead in this one. At this altar, at this banquet table, you will meet people who disagree with you about abortion and gay and lesbian sexuality and gun control. At this table, you will meet people who have more money than you will ever have, and people who are getting by on food stamps. But guess what? Until you see every single one of them as your sister and your brother, you really haven't seen them at all. Because this banquet table is a glimpse of the final banquet table of God. People will come this morning and next Sunday and the Sunday after that as young and old and black and white and rich and poor and Republicans and Democrats, and they will leave this table as brothers and sisters of the living God. I once was at a funeral service hosted by a Catholic priest. When it came time for communion, the Catholic priest announced that every Catholic person in the congregation would receive the bread and the wine, and everybody else would just get a blessing. That Catholic priest had an opportunity to give that grieving family and their friends a glimpse of the banquet table of God, and he missed it. I didn't watch any of the Republican or Democratic national conventions. I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect that they were partisan politics at their very best. Each side trying to convince us that what they have to offer is the American dream, while telling us that what the other side has to offer is an unholy nightmare. Now, folks, I know that religion and politics don't mix, but I have to ask you one question, those of you who watched those conventions. Was there any glimpse, any hint of that banquet table in any of those rooms? A Syro-Phoenician woman is healed, her daughter with breadcrumbs. A Gentile deaf-mute is healed and made whole. Glimpses of the ever-expanding banquet table of God. That Catholic priest missed an opportunity to give us another glimpse. Maybe the Republicans and Democrats missed it too. But you and I still have that chance. Here in this place, with our lives, we have the opportunity to reach across the aisle and break down walls and care for one another and love one another and, for God's sake, maybe even listen to one another even in our differences. If somehow by God's grace we can celebrate the many things that we hold in common, but at the same time talk to one another and work together with one another about those things that separate us, I wonder, folks, if then we would not only come to the table, but become the table for the world in which we live. Jesus Christ gave his life for that purpose. I wonder if this world would be a better place if we did the same. Amen.